Hi, I'm Siobhan Berry and I'm from Mummy Cooks. So Mummy Cooks is all about helping mums and dads and parents on feeding their children. So to talk about stage 3. So stage 3 would generally be around 9 to 12 months. However, I always find that babies are develop obviously at different stages, and sometimes babies can almost skip stage 2 and move on very quickly to stage 3. Really, what stage 3 is that you are setting your child up to feed and eat your food at 1 year of age. So really, when you think about stage 3, you're thinking about, is the baby almost ready to do that? So if you are if you're still at that kind of stage where the food is being pureed down, you haven't really succeeded with the finger food, the child isn't feeding themselves, that's okay. That's okay. It's about kind of working through the next couple of months on getting the child to eat your food. So what I would say is, if it is an issue with that the child isn't eating your food, that you're still kind of on those sweet purees, or that it is just a puree, I would kind of work every day on trying to increase the variety and increase the types of food that you're eating. If there's anyone, and I see they're very smallies there, if you do have a 6-month-old, it is a really good time to almost move on to family food at that stage. And that would be my big thing, is that actually family food can be given at 6 months if it's cooked from scratch. So what does that mean? So that means when you are cooking the food, you're not adding a paste, or you're not adding a sauce. And when you're cooking it as well, you're not adding salt. Because babies can have most foods. The only things they can't have is the salt and the sugar. And they can have the herbs and the spices. Probably not too much like chili or anything like that could burn their mouth or could upset their tummy, but they really can have everything. So therefore, it is okay to give family meals from 6 months, and it's actually a really good thing to do, because what they will do then is they'll go on to eat your foods even before the 9 months. However, we're talking about stage 3, so if you are haven't got to that stage yet and you're still kind of cooking separate meals for them, maybe it's like try every day to include one of the meals that you would be cooking. So for instance, let's take, for example, a Bolonaise. How would I offer that to a 9-month-old? So first of all, it should be your own Bolonaise that you've cooked. It's okay to use tins of tomato and passata. Now, if you do read the description on it, you will see that there is a little bit of salt in it, but just remember the small amount of the Bolonaise that goes in is in comparison to the tin of tomatoes is minute. And actually a baby can have up to 1 gram of salt a day. So salt is present in cheeses and in lots naturally in foods and in tinned goods like that. So that's okay. It's all moderation anyway at this stage. So so your Bolonaise, the way I would make the Bolonaise is, let's say it's for the vegetables. You might not be a great chopper of onions, so use your blender. I'm a big fan of the big food processor. So what you do is you cut your onion in half and pop it into the blender, and then you would pulse it. So if you pulse your the vegetables rather than blend them, if you blend them, they'll turn to kind of a gooey liquid. But if you pulse them, so just press the button over and back, it will chop them, and it'll chop them really nicely and small. So this would be perfect then for a baby. So you add the vegetables and the mince, and the mince is already a perfect consistency. And then how you offer it then is either with the spaghetti. So if it's the spaghetti, then obviously it's, their hands are in it and they're lifting it through their mouth, and it's more like a finger food, and that's fantastic. or you can have small baby pasta shapes. Remember, you can't blend pasta. If you blend pasta or you blend white potato, it turns to glue. So never, those two are kind of absolute no-nos. We can blend rice, but it does need to have a lot of liquid, and it does need to have maybe vegetables in it as well. So risotto will blend, but not too much, and it does need a bit of liquid. So yeah, so that's kind of how you would adapt a bolognese. The other one I would always suggest as well is kind of, I would always give like a 6-month-old a curry. And the reason is because actually children love the taste of spicy food, and sometimes they're not given it until kind of later on, because you think, oh, maybe they can't have it, or it might, you know, it might be too much for them. But actually from 6 months they can have it. So if you're breastfeeding, or even when you were pregnant, the taste is already there if you've been eating that type of food. And if that's the type of food you eat, I think it's definitely from 6 months you start offering that type of food. I have a coconut chicken curry in my book, and it's one of the most made recipes, and it's the one I always kind of demonstrate as well, because what I like to do, I just want to show it to you here, because this is it here, you can see it there. So lots of color and lots of vegetables in it. And this is a lovely one for the toddlers and the older children as well. So from 6 months, how do I adapt that, or even for a 9-month-old as well? So first of all, it's got cauliflower, it's got sweet potato, it's got carrot, peas, lentils, and chicken. So the texture comes from the lentils. The peas actually have texture because of the outer shell. The cauliflower and the sweet potato don't, as long as you mush them down. The lentils have texture, and obviously the chicken has texture. So you can offer this meal in a lot of different ways. For a 6-month-old, you can just blend it. I would do 1 part chicken to 3 parts vegetables, so that it's not as textured. For a 9-month-old, then I would just blend it as it is, and maybe not even blend, maybe pulse it. Or you can offer it as a finger food. And the way you do that is you're just taking out the vegetables, making sure that they are nice and soft. So you do the squish test. So with the cauliflower or with the sweet potato, you're just going to squishing it down with your fingers like that. Peas will be fine because they're not a choking hazard and they're nice and small. The lentils will have cooked in on the sauce, and then the chicken. So the chicken is a choking hazard if it's given as it is. So either cut it into kind of pea-sized amounts for your baby to pick up and place in their mouth, or you can shred it. I like shredding it because that means that there's no lumps, and it's just kind of like a perfect consistency for them to chew and also for them to pick up. So what I would be encouraging more finger food at 9 months. The reason we kind of like finger food, or we like food that is that, you know, that the child can pick up and eat themselves, is it kind of, what it does is it develops a lot of other things like their pincer grab, their hand-eye coordination. Also, it is shown that children who are, you know, touch and feel and experience the food go on to be much happier eaters. And that's probably why you would hear a lot about baby-led weaning being the perfect solution, because actually that child has touched and felt and experienced the food and they're not afraid of it. Whereas the opposite can be when you don't show the food and you're feeding from here, or you're playing airplane, or the child hasn't experienced the food. But I would also say that you do not have to do baby-led weaning in order to have a good eater. And how you do that is you make sure that the child always has a bowl of the food on their counter. So you would have like a suction bowl on their high chair, or the food on the high chair, and then they're touching and feeling and bringing it to the mouth, even if you are actually still spoon feeding them, which is perfectly fine. So it doesn't have to be just finger food. but we do like that control, and again, that control leads to a happier eater. So offering at least one meal a day at 9 months, I think, as a finger food is a really good idea. Another one is variety. So I'm always harping on about variety, because I have older children, and I see what not having variety can lead to. Because if you, for instance, one thing that I kind of went wrong with as my kids were babies was giving too many bananas. So banana is such an easy fruit to bring out and about. You just peel it and you offer it to them. And if you continuously, and I did, give the banana, they will tire of it. And my children, 11 and 8, wouldn't even look at a banana, because it's like the worst thing in the world to them. And I know I did that just because it was a convenient food. So when we talk about variety, we mean that you do need a lot of variety in terms of texture, but in terms of that you're not giving the same food over and over again. So there's a thing called food jag. And if you give the same food day after day in the same format, your child, your baby, your toddler, your older child, you will food jag, and you will no longer want that food. That food will absolutely disgust you, and you'll become so afraid of it that you'll never ever want it back on your plate. So we don't want to food jag on foods that you really want them to eat. So variety helps that. So the rule of thumb is every 2 to 3 days you need to have a gap. So I know they love that corn, and I know they love the peas, and I know they love the whatever, the banana, but you do have to leave 2 days before you give the same food in the same format. That's not to say you can make a banana pancake, or you can put banana in a milkshake, or you can put banana in a different form. That is different. It's more giving the same food day after day. And it's the same with, like, you might say your 9-month-old really likes bolognese, but really the bolognese should only come out once a week, I believe, because if you give it more than once, then we're into that whole idea that they will get really tire of it, and you really don't want them to tire of something like that, because that's something that you can batch cook and freeze. The other one would be at 9 months, now we're going to be dropping milk. So excuse me, you would have had like a milk feed in, now this is more the bottle, the breast is always a little bit different, but you would have a bottle feed in the mid-morning and the mid-afternoon, and those 2 milk feeds are now gone, and it's down to about 2 to 3 feeds a day. So what they would suggest, so you are on like 3 meals a day. So you've got your breakfast. So probably the baby wakes up in the morning. If I go to a schedule, it's probably good. So the baby wakes up in the morning and they have breast or bottle. And then an hour later, they have their breakfast. So for a 9 to 12-month-old, they'll be on this size here. So this is about 6 ounces or 180 mils. Again, like if they want more food after that, you can offer it to them, but offer a different food or a finger food, something that's a little harder maybe to eat. So if it was like that, it was a puree, or that it was a cereal, maybe offer some fruit, not more cereal, because more of anything is not, it's about, again, it's about that whole variety and balance. So yeah, so you have your breakfast, and then they might have their morning nap, or they're coming out of that. And then usually they would wake up and have another bottle, but we're now not having that bottle. And if they're hungry, only if they're hungry, because sometimes a 9-month-old isn't, but then as they get towards the 12 months old, they are hungry. But if they're hungry, we offer them a snack. A healthy snack, obviously. So it's, when I talk about snacks, actually, I kind of, I'm thinking about snacks for a 1-year-old. But if you were to offer a snack, I would say visualize it, that we have a protein, a carbohydrate, and a fruit and a vegetable, because when people get, like, when you tell somebody to give a child a snack, the first thing they'll probably grab is something from the shelf or some sort of carbohydrate. But if the child, if any child visualizes a meal, they should visualize it as a complete meal, and snacks should be like that as well. So I always would say, like, a muffin is a lovely one to give. So if it's a vegetable muffin or a fruit muffin and a bit of hummus, or nut butter and toast and a little bit of apple, that's a lovely one as well. So it makes it easier to come up with different snacks. But again, it's only if the child is hungry. Don't offer snacks to a 9-month-old unless they're hungry. So if they wake up and they're fine and they can wait till lunch, do that. Because you really want that, you really want them to eat that dinner. I always talk about giving the child 2 dinners. So the first dinner is at lunchtime, and the second dinner is at kind of tea time. Because if you start telling people to give a child a lunch and a tea, then we start mixing up what to give. So usually the protein is in the middle of the day. So again, you're on your 180 mils. Probably, hopefully it's not too blended. Hopefully it's a pulsed with manageable lumps. The way you know that is that, your baby may not have teeth, but their gums would be able to crunch it down like that. So that will be a manageable lump. Then you can offer one meal, maybe, you can maybe offer that midday meal as a finger food. And then they go down for the second nap, and then again up again at about 3, a snack if they're hungry. If not, we continue on, and then they have their dinner around 5 or 4:30, second dinner. So what does a second dinner look like? I just say a second dinner because sometimes when you do say that tea, it doesn't include a vegetable. And if you look at the food pyramid, we need 5 to 7 portions a day. So if it's a tea and it's not including a vegetable or a fruit, then we're in a bit of trouble later on. So do try to have it that it's that it includes the vegetable. So I like things like a vegetable sauce on a pasta, or some sort of finger food with a bit of vegetables as well. So that's a good routine to be in, but everyone's in a different routine. The key with weaning is that you have a gap between milk and food. It's not as hard at the 9-month-old because there's not as many bottles and there's not as many feeds. But if you are breastfeeding and you're breastfeeding on demand, try to have an hour gap between the last time you fed to the food, because your baby won't be hungry and they'll just continually snack on the milk, and they won't successfully wean. And it is important because just remember, we are completely on food at 1 year of age. So it's about getting to that point. The other one is textures that I wanted to talk about. So a lot of people would have issues around textures, moving on with textures. So it is important to kind of, from 6 months, continually move on. If you're having an issue with textures, then finger food is good because it just gives the baby that control, and they can bring it up to their mouth. They don't need teeth. Teeth actually are just for tearing food. Remember, their teeth are under their gums, so when they crunch down, they actually are chewing it as we would as well. And it is important that they get it back to their molar here and crunch down on it. So that is, I think what time am I at? I've done longer than 15 minutes, but that is stage 3, and maybe we take questions.
Yeah, has anyone got any questions? They want to just put their hand up or just type into the box if you want to.
I can't see anybody. Everybody's just a name.
I can see Danica's got a question there.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Danica, yeah.
Hi. I've baby-led weaned both of them. This one is 7 months now, so it's still quite near the beginning. But I've generally always just given them in part what we've eaten as a family. Which you were mentioning before. We generally, within reason, we mostly eat well, but if the odd occasion we order a takeaway, they obviously have something different. But I've never really done baby cooking, more just like if we've had sweet potato, giving them fingers of that, and fingers of the meat. But I've been really quite inspired by some of the recipes, like the lovely one that you mentioned just before. But when I've been looking at the recipes, something that's really thrown me is where the recipes tend to say from 6 months, from 9 months, from 12 months. What is it? Why can't I give a 12-month recipe to my 7-month-old? What is it that makes it different?
Really good question. I have my own recipe book, and I do not break them down into different ages. It doesn't make sense, to be honest. That was always my confusion when I was weaning. It was like, why can't I give this to? So I think even though I'm talking about stage here, I do think that like people are on different stages at different times, and it's not really, everyone doesn't fit into the same box. And you are certainly on, with your 7-month-old, on stage 3, because you're already giving family food and you're already including her. And so you just ignore those recipes that say that, because you can give your child everything from 6 months. It's how you adapt it. And you understand that because you're giving your baby your food, and you understand how to adapt it. So just ignore it, I guess, if you have a recipe book like that. What I would say is that sometimes when you're only giving your food, or only giving bits of like a potato or a chicken, or that in itself is a little limited. So I would try to encourage you to look at a bit of batch cooking. Now what you could do is, for instance, a marinara sauce is a lovely one. So just make a batch of marinara sauce. That's putting all of your vegetables, cooking them, blending it, popping it into the freezer. And then when you take it out, then you're just putting it on some pasta, or you're putting it on different carbohydrates every time. And what that'll do is just give your child that kind of liquid, so it's a different taste and a different texture than to just having a vegetable. And what, I don't know if you're going to be, after all this, be putting her into a creche, or will she be eating somewhere else, because you want her to eat a variety of foods, and by just giving bits of food, it's not as much variety. So, and it'll help you as well, like those days where you do have the takeaway, you don't have to make her a quick meal, you have it in the freezer.
Okay, we've got another question.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. Thanks you.
Dana. Thanks. We've got another question, Siobhan. This is from Anne-Marie. She says, would the 5 p.m. dinner include a protein also, e.g. the pasta and veg sauce? She's written, my 7-month-old is on family food thanks to your weaning course.
Yay! It can include the protein, but yourself, like, you're not supposed to be eating too much, like if we're talking about meat, you're not supposed to be eating too much meat, too much red meat. But protein comes in different forms as well. So it also, the reason why you have it in the middle of the day is that it sustains them, and then they go through the night. So if it is in the one in the evening, that's fine, but I would try to maybe stick to the vegetables and the carbohydrates in the evening, and then more the protein in the middle of the day. It also depends on the age of the child as well. Like, so if you're talking about a 6-month-old, definitely just in the middle of the day. An older child would probably be able to have that protein later as well.
Okay, are there any other questions? I can't see any in the chat box, so I think everyone's done that. Anyone else with their hand up? I can't see. If people do want to ask you a question and get hold of you later, Siobhan, where can people find you?
Yeah, so usually Instagram's a really good place because we do lots of Q&As, and that's at Mummy Cooks. Or you can have a look at our mummycooks.com. I do run online weaning courses as well, if anyone is looking for that. It's a good time to be running those. So it's that's all on mummycooks.com. But yeah, so I mean, just kind of wrapping it up, I do think that like weaning is always about enjoying the experience, and the joy on your face will transfer to your child, and love that you're feeding the child the family food at the family table, because that teaches that child so much. It's a positive experience. So you're all doing your best, and you know, it's just about that happy face in front of your child, I think is the most important.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for everything that you've said. It's been hugely interesting. I'm amazingly interested to know that you can actually give a baby curry. Not something I would have thought about. So it's fantastic to learn. We're finishing up now. Weaning Week are back with another online course at 2:30 this afternoon with finger food. So do join in then, everyone, if you can do. Have your questions ready. In the meantime, if you want to join in with the chatter on social media, you can do. And if you want to pop over and check out the recipes that are on the website, take a look there. Okay, thanks everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.